morning, everybody. My name is Brian Maynor. I am the Executive Director of Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. We actually have a pretty decent crowd here this morning. I think it might be because we have deep fried breakfast sandwiches this morning, courtesy of our friends at Redders LLC. Today's a really special event for 1 Million Cups. It's a holiday, as many of you well know. Many of you are probably not working today, so we thank you if you're tuning in online. But today's Veterans Day. And before we get started, because we don't have a flag, I wanted to do the say the Pledge of Allegiance, but instead what I'd like to do is when everybody gets settled here, I'd like to just pause for a minute and have a moment of silence for all of our fallen veterans. So if everybody could sit down, we're just gonna take a moment of silence. All right, thank you so much. We always start off our events by, first of all, asking if anyone here is new to 1 Million Cups and if they would like to introduce themselves. They can come up to the microphone and say hello. And I'd love it if, no pressure, but there's a couple people I met this morning. Anybody want to introduce themselves? All right, and if you're online, if you want to say hello, you can put that in the comments as well. Next off, we have our calendar of events. So if anyone here in person or if anyone online wants to post and have us talk about their upcoming community events, we'd love to hear from you there as well. Yeah, come on up.
Hi. My name is Dakota. I'm with the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. I guess this is technically a week early, so I can just come and say it again next week as well. But next week is Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week throughout the nation. There will be some things happening. I wish there could be more, but global pandemic and all. So we're just going to be spreading a lot of education on our Facebook page, just some good information that will be very shareable. If this is a cause that matters to you, we would love for you to share that information and educate others about the resources that are available for people who are hungry and homeless in our community. And then the actual event that we are doing, we're going to be doing virtual tours on Friday, the 20th. At multiple times throughout the day. It's the same Zoom link. You can register. There's a Facebook event, which maybe I'll share here afterwards so that people can easily access it. But 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, 2, and 4 o'clock, you can come and take a virtual tour with me, fumbling around with my cell phone and unlocking doors and showing you the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. If you've been in before and you would say, oh, I've already seen it and I already know what you do there, COVID changed a lot, obviously, and then we've also had a lot of leadership changes and some kind of shifts in programming that we do at the Bishop Dudley House. So I would love for you to come and ask questions if you have any questions about this issue in our city and what people can do about it and other resources in the community. I've kind of been around this issue for a while, so I know about some of the other resources when people have questions about that as well, so I'd love to share that all with you.
Awesome.
Thank
I
you.
didn't recognize you, by the way, until you came up here. It's dang masks. Who else has an event they want to share this morning? Come on up, Jamie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamie Wood, the District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration. Happy Veterans Day. And it is such an exciting time, even though we're heading into, it looks like winter out there, doesn't it? I don't know if I believe it yet, though, because I think it'll melt today. I'm an optimist. But anyway, it'll come back. I'm also an optimist. So anyway, we have a lot of, a great lineup that's coming up as far as a lot of webinars. We're doing a lot in the virtual space right now. We'll get back to those face-to-face, in-person trainings soon, but right now the show goes on in the virtual world, and so please connect with the SBA. You can do that by going to www.sba.gov/updates, put in your zip code, and then you'll get our e-newsletter for the South Dakota District Office. But for November, we're celebrating a lot of things this month. It's Native American Heritage Month, so we're doing some outreach in that aspect. A lot of that is just really relationship building, and then we have some special trainings that are going on as well for entrepreneurs. And then also we have Small Business Saturday that's coming up. That's the Saturday. Hopefully Sadie's going to come and talk more, but we're working really closely with Downtown Sioux Falls. So you're going to come up and tell people about that? Sure. Oh, right. So she will next. So I'll just preface that. So stay tuned for that. And then also, there's a bit of fraud going on right now with emergency injury disaster loans and some of the other lending too. It's not rampant, but there's a bit of an uptick across the United States. And so we're going to do a program with the Better Business Bureau from South Dakota. It'll be the week of November 15th or 16th, whenever that Monday is on, but I think we're going to have it either on the 17th or 19th. So please check. We're in the process of planning that right now. And it's going to address what to do if your identity gets stolen and then how to protect yourself. So please do, that's going to be a virtual event. We're going to have a lot of great speakers on there that are going to be addressing this. And it's very important as business owners and individuals to understand that, it's the aspects of staying safe and what you can do if your personal identity gets hijacked, either individually or also your business. So again, not rampant, but it is happening, so we want to make sure people know. So connect with us. We're here to serve you. Our services are free of charge. Thanks.
Jamie, you're a veteran, right?
I am an Army
Thank you for
veteran.
your service.
Well, thank you very much. I brought one of my favorite veterans too. My husband
How many
is here
veterans
today.
do we
so
have
we've
in
got
the room today? Can you raise your hands? Let's do a round of applause for these guys.
Thank
Dude, that's
you.
amazing. We have like 5 or 6 veterans here today.
Thank you. And it's a team sport, right? So the veterans need a lot of support, and a lot of you provide that, and so we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Who else? I think Peter's beating you there, Sadie.
Heidi Ho. My name is Peter Hauk. I'm the community manager for the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship, and I'm here to tell you that Startup Sioux Falls is hosting a virtual office hours event on Thursday, November 19th from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. It's going to be through Zoom with breakout rooms. We're going to have 25 time slots available with entrepreneurial experts in the city of Sioux Falls. Some of those are Tova Bormus, Amy Moore from Lemonly, Mike Ritter, Eric Weiser. So you can find more details about that at startupsiouxfalls.com, and you can apply to fill one of those time slots if that's something that would be beneficial to your business. So apply.
Thanks, Peter. I think Sadie's up next. Run.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sadie Sweer, and I'm with Downtown Sioux Falls. And a couple things going on. I was so excited to host for the first time last week. I didn't even let you guys know what was going on in downtown. And so last Friday, it was a first Friday, and every first Friday, it's not just East Bank block parties. We usually kick off some kind of promotion or something fun. And so last Friday, we kicked off the local favorite fundraiser for downtown businesses, which is the Downtown Gives coupon book. And so this is a coupon book that has over 30 exclusive deals in it. The businesses love it, and these funds are raised for a local charity every year. And this year it is the Friends of the Big Sioux River. And so this sale for the coupon books is going on. It started last Friday and goes until the end of the year. And you can use these coupons until the end of March. And so starting now through the end of March, you can use these coupons. They make great gifts, stocking stuffers, gifts for your corporate office, anything like that. But you can purchase these books at any of the businesses that have coupons. So you can find that list at our website. And then, of course, we are kicking off our last gift box package, which is the DTSF promotion that's going on promoting businesses. And this Friday, it is the holiday shopping spree. And so this has a ton of different gift cards from over 10 businesses, along with a hotel stay at the Hilton Garden Inn and axe throwing for 2. And so this will be given away on Small Business Saturday, which will transition into a great event that we're partnering with a lot of community organizations, which is between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So on Small Business Saturday, that's that day where we really want to rally around our local business owners and make sure that we're supporting them during the holiday season. So that'll be November 28th is Small Business Saturday, and you can find more information about that coupon book, about the Downtown Gives promotion, and also Small Business Saturday at dtsf.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadie. Shameless plug, Zeal Center has a coupon inside of that Downtown Gives coupon book if you're interested in a month worth of free co-working. As well as, I just wanted to thank DTSF and the Chamber for their partnerships in helping us send 9 local businesses through to a program it's Co-Starters Rebuild. We're about to launch a new accelerator program in our community on January 12th. We have a date, but before that, what we're looking to do is give back to some businesses that have been affected by COVID. So what we're doing is we're sending these 9 businesses through on scholarship, and they will take place in a 10-week cohort facilitated by someone at the national level through the Co-Starters program. And we just want to give them some resources so they can learn how to pivot and rebuild their businesses during this really, in time of uncertainty, if you will. So we're really looking forward to connecting those people with resources, and we hope to follow up with you all on the successes after the program is over. So thank you for the partnership. We appreciate it. Any other events this morning? Was there anything online we need to talk about? Nope. All right, so before we get to the main event, we have to recognize a couple of veterans that are here that brought us food today. Bless your hearts for doing that. It smells delicious in here. I can see people munching. Jeremy, would you mind coming up for a minute and talking to us a little bit about your business and your story? Jeremy's been doing the media circuit for the last couple of days. You might have already seen him on KSFY, SDPB. He's been all over the place. Tell us about yourself.
Sorry, no autographs today, but we'll be here all week. Really, it's really kind of humbling that we're actually got the opportunity to do this, and we really appreciate everything that you've done for us to get us all out there. My name is Jeremy Holing. My wife Jen in the back. She's not real. She told me straight out. She's like, "You're the one talking." So here I am. But we started this food trailer. We've been talking for years about wanting to do some kind of small business, and we were just kind of chatting, and my wife's kind of like, "Well, you're retired, but you're too young to retire, just sit around." She's like, "You're going to cause trouble, do something." And we started talking, and all of a sudden this food trailer idea came in mind. And it is veteran owned and veteran operated. My wife Jen was a DoD contractor. I did 17 years in the Air Force before I was retired due to an injury. And so what we did is we brought this trailer online, and what we're hoping to do once we really get things rolling, we've only been actually online, and we've been rolling since June. What we're hoping for is my wife and I are going to be giving back to the veterans. It's real near and dear to our heart. It's real near and dear to me. We are federal contractors with the VA, so now we can go to any VA in the nation and set up and take care of those frontline workers at the VA and thank them for what they're doing. But we're also going to be set up today for Veterans Day, but honestly, for the safety of our customers and even just our safety as well. I know a lot of the veterans are elderly, they're disabled. We didn't want them to try trudging through the snow and the ice and stuff to try to get to our truck, so we're actually going to push it back to next Wednesday from 11 to whenever the food is gone at the Alliance. They were gracious enough to let us set up there. But what we're going to do is we're going to try other dates, whether it's Memorial Day or it's Armed Services Day, stuff like that. We are going to set up and try and do the same type of deal for all those to recognize all the military members and the veterans for what they do. We have cards set out, so if you want to try and track us down and try some of our other food while we're out there, please, by all means, and events as well. We definitely will set up for events, but that's about it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jeremy and Jen, for being here. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. You have a magnificent beard, sir. I love it. Love it. All right, let's get on to the main event here. So I'm very excited to bring up our next presenter. He and I actually went to high school together in Washington back in the day. I won't say the date, I won't say the year, but he and his wife are here with us this morning. They actually drove up here last night and they're leaving today. So we're so appreciative for them being here with us today and telling their story, especially on this wonderful holiday. So Army Major Chris Mercado has served for over 20 years now. He's lived all over the world. I'm sure he could stand up here and talk for an hour about all of his stories, but specifically what we have him here to talk about today is an app that he and one of his colleagues have developed to help support veterans with mental health issues, which is a real issue in this country. And I'm probably stealing some of your thunder here, but the message that you put out about 20 veterans losing their life to suicide every single day, as well as one active duty every single day, which is double the suicide rate across the country, is alarming to me. And the fact that you guys are doing something about it on a big scale is so incredible. And so I know there's a lot of people here that are just really excited to hear your story, hear more about it. So without further ado, please welcome to the stage Army Major Chris Mercado.
Thanks so much for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. I'll give it just a second. Are the slides being displayed? I'll just ask. Okay, they will be. What's that? Perfect. Okay. Yeah, what an honor it is to be here. And I certainly did not mind the drive. It was a very, very quick and easy drive for us. We're used to long drives. So I'm very grateful to be here to represent the Objective Zero Foundation. For those of you who don't know, the Objective Zero Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are combating suicide in the military community. And we believe that we can combat suicide through the simple act of listening. Our story really begins in the fall of 2014. When I was a student at Georgetown University, and I noticed that a friend and former colleague of mine, Justin Miller, was struggling with his transition out of the military. I could see it playing out on social media. His posts were very alarming, and I wasn't quite sure what I should do. So I reached out to Justin, connected with him over a phone call, and I asked him directly if he was thinking about hurting himself. Justin kind of laughed at me and said that if his weapon had been loaded the night before, he wouldn't be on the line with me right now. Not a trained suicide prevention specialist, not a counselor, not a therapist. I'm an infantry officer by trade, but I knew I needed to stay on the line with Justin until I was confident that he was no longer a danger to himself or to anyone else. And so for 6 hours, I stayed on the line with Justin, and I just listened to him. I heard about his challenges. I listened to what he was struggling with. And at the end of that 6-hour-long phone call, I asked him again if he was thinking about hurting himself. And Justin said, no, he felt better. He felt fine. He just needed someone to listen to him without judgment and to help think about the problems that he was experiencing and look at them in a different way. At the end of that phone call, Justin and I realized that what he was experiencing as a veteran was not unique. Many veterans, in fact, struggle with that transition out of the military, whether that's from post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, some kind of an addiction they may have picked up, issues with sleep, hypervigilance. There's many different causes, but the experience and the ultimate experience is the same, right? That difficulty with struggling through the transition. What we wanted to do was replicate that call between Justin and I at scale, using existing technologies, applying them in an innovative and creative new way that hadn't been done before. So we created the Objective Zero Foundation, as mentioned, nonprofit organization using technology to combat suicide in the military community. Now, we wanted to define the military community as broadly as possible. So when we talk about the military community, we're talking about active duty service members in the National Guard and Army Reserves, veterans, their family members, and military caregivers as well. We wanted to cast as wide a net as possible. But before we could launch our organization, we really needed to understand the scope of the problem. And as you mentioned, what we learned was absolutely alarming, that on average, every single day, 20 veterans and 1 active duty service member are dying by suicide. This is at a rate that's twice that of the general population, but female veterans are especially at risk, 250% more likely than their civilian counterparts to die by suicide. And likely as a result of the outbreak of the global pandemic here in 2020, suicide in the military is up 20% in 2020 over 2019. And in the Army, a service very important to me, suicide is up 30% this year over last. It's extremely alarming. And I don't want to make light of the outbreak of the global pandemic, the coronavirus, but when you put those numbers into perspective, in 1 week, we're losing more active duty service members to suicide than we've lost in the last 10 months to the coronavirus. It is that bad of a silent epidemic plaguing our ranks. So we used technology in a creative new way. We launched a mobile application, which is free to download and free to use. It's available for both Apple users and Android users. You can download it on either the Google Play or Apple App Store. And what you see here is kind of a depiction of our mobile app, from what you would see once you launch the app all the way through to the mental health and wellness resources. And what I want to point out on this is what distinguishes us from existing crisis call centers. So for example, the Veterans Crisis Line already exists and is doing a fantastic job. But we wanted to think about the problem differently. We wanted to be preventative rather than reactive. If someone is already in crisis, it's too late. So we wanted to get ahead of that, right? By restoring those meaningful connections and that meaningful purpose in their lives. So we created a series of filters so that a user can actually connect with the person that's going to be most meaningful or most like them, which is unlike anything that's out there right now. We also wanted to make the calls instant and anonymous, which happens directly in our app. Since launching our mobile app in December of 2017, we've served over 10,000 users in that military community. We've facilitated over 50,000 unique conversations, and we've trained over 2,000 peer support ambassadors. And our app is serving these users not just in all 50 states, but in more than 20 countries around the world, literally wherever service members or veterans or their families might be. Over the course of the next 3 years, and I'll talk about some of this in just a moment, we're really hoping to scale up our support, right? We know that the military community is a minority population in the United States. There's only about 20 million veterans of all branches, of all eras in the United States, and only about 1.5 million service members on active duty. And we're serving presently a very small portion of that. So we want to scale our organization and grow and professionalize our organization. We also want to increase the number of ambassadors, peer support ambassadors that we've trained, and we want to improve the technology. So this month, in fact, we anticipate launching not just our mobile app, we've already launched our mobile app, but we want to launch a web app as well. And we think that will go live later this month. This is our web app. It mimics all of the capabilities of our mobile app. What we wanted to do was increase the availability to veterans and service members. Some people may not have access to a smartphone who only have access to a computer. And so we wanted to create that capability on the web as well. Not over 90% of all of the funds we raise go directly to our programs. This is very unique in the military community, and it's unique because presently the Objective Zero Foundation is run entirely by volunteers. So my wife, Betsy, as mentioned earlier, she's the executive director of the Objective Zero Foundation. I run operations and partnerships, and all of our staff and all of our volunteers, all of our ambassadors are entirely staffed by volunteers presently. In 2021, later this year, we would like to professionalize the organization, start paying our people so that we can actually scale. It's very difficult to scale if you're not paying people, but we'll see if we can make that happen. Our partnerships, proud to say that we're partnered with the Department of Veterans Affairs, Given Hour, the Crisis Text Line, AMVETS, Comeback Yoga, Psych Armor Institute, and the PTSD Foundation of America. And over the course of 2020 and moving into 2021, we've been working with the Centers for Disease Control and the Centers for Disease Control Foundation on program evaluation. We want to make sure that our programs actually accomplish what we say or what we intend them to accomplish, right? That if we say we're going to, prevent veteran suicide, that our programs actually do that. There's 3 ways we tell people that you can support our mission. You can be our champion, you can connect us to your network or to veterans who may need our services, or you can, of course, contribute. And your contribution need not necessarily be monetary. You can contribute your time or your talents to Objective Zero. We're always looking for volunteers. And notably, not all of our peer support ambassadors are military members or veterans themselves. We do have concerned citizens, clergy, therapists, counselors on the platform as well. And in closing, I would say you too can save a life through the simple act of listening. I encourage all of you to go onto your phone, download the Objective Zero app, sign up to be a peer support ambassador, go through the training, and be willing to save a life. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Thank you so much. That is so fantastic. I think I have a question to start just about, you're a startup yourselves, right? So, and I'm assuming you don't have any background in app development. So can you talk a little bit about your journey there and who you got connected with to help you launch this initiative?
That's a great question. So when we originally conceived of the idea of using a mobile app, I had no background in mobile app technology, coding, development. I'm not a coder. While I was at Georgetown, I recruited a bunch of my friends and really smart colleagues who had some experience in the technology sector. And then we used their network to penetrate even deeper and find people who had those skills and abilities. And eventually we settled on a development firm that does most of our development for us. We do very little of it in-house. But through the course of several technology accelerators, we started with Fast Forward out in San Francisco, and then in Denver, we were working with Uncharted Visible Connect, and we've been through several rounds of these technology accelerators to actually help us bring our vision to reality.
Awesome. So you're saying accelerators work?
Yes, they absolutely work.
That's really good to hear because we're going to be launching one soon. Who has a question? If you have a question and you're here in person, you can just walk up to the mic and ask. And if you've got anything that you want to ask, if you're tuning in on Facebook, just post it in the comments and we'll make sure to ask it on your behalf. Peter.
I've got a question from Facebook here. Matt Paulson asked, how is the nonprofit funded?
Great question. So when we originally launched the nonprofit in January of 2017, was it January? January of 2017, we originally launched a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. One of the most difficult things I've ever done, and we've ever done. Very, very challenging. But we successfully raised $38,000 to provide our kind of seed money for our minimal viable product, just the basic capability for our app. For about a year after that, we generally relied almost entirely on individual donations, just from military members, veterans, our supporters, our friends, our family members. Since then, though, we've kind of diversified a little bit. So we rely right now a lot on grants, and those grants can come from the for-profit sector, they can come from the government, they can come from larger nonprofits that also do grant making. So in the last year, we've really diversified away from individual donations and more towards grants. And then the accelerators that we've been through as well have also provided some grants as well. Great question.
So I'm kind of a PR maven, and I'm really jealous, and I just think it's really impressive that you guys were able to get on the Today Show. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be? Who were your connections to get onto the Today Show?
The short answer is the Today Show actually reached out to us.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they really did. They reached out to us. They said, there's no guarantees. We're considering doing this. We're really interested in your story, and we're thinking about having you. So of course we said, yes, absolutely. And it took us about 6 weeks of working kind of back and forth with them, but eventually we were able, it was a year ago today, in fact, that we were out there in New York City. But it took us about 6 weeks of kind of planning and preparation and lead up before we were actually on the Today Show.
And what did that do for your organization? Did you see a spike in downloads?
In fact, as we were walking off the set, off the studio, Justin's phone, Betsy's phone, my phone, we were all receiving connections through our app. The crew were still trying to kind of talk to us, thank us, and we were receiving requests for support on our apps while we were trying to leave. So More broadly, though, we saw an enormous increase in downloads, usage surrounding the Today Show. But it wasn't just that. We've seen that around our accelerators. We've seen that with our partnership with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So we've seen that happen several times. But we've also seen an increase in app usage surrounding kind of spikes in the coronavirus, which we at first didn't anticipate. But pretty much any time that there's been a large surge in coronavirus cases around the country, we've seen a corresponding increase in app usage there as well.
That's really interesting. Who else has a question? Come on up.
Chris, thank you so much for talking about this, especially on Veterans Day. We have talked a lot about mental health, and that seems to be coming to the forefront for a lot of people, especially because of coronavirus. Do you see a stigma for a lot of veterans when it comes to talking about mental health? And is there something specific that you would like to overcome or tell everybody about mental health?
That's a great question. Yeah. Again, the short answer is I think, yes, I do see a stigma surrounding mental health in the military community. There's this stereotype of the service member or soldier in particular who must be strong, can't be weak, can't be vulnerable. Speaking as an infantryman, sometimes we would, especially in the past, look down on someone who would go to seek mental health treatment or would, maybe they were injured and needed to go, seek physical treatment, right? I do believe in the military, though, that isn't kind of an old way of looking at things that's not as pervasive as it used to be, right? I am very heartened when I see stories of senior leaders, and I see it happening more and more frequently, who are saying, I'm going to get treatment, I'm going to get counseling, I'm going to get help. So I do think that we're moving in the right direction, kind of breaking down those stigmas that previously used to exist. I think the stereotypes both of, service members must always be strong, we can't have moments of vulnerability, I think those are going away. I also think the stereotype of the broken soldier is also going away, right? Which is not helpful at all. It's not an accurate characterization of our veterans. Mental health issues, they come, they go. Some people are afflicted with them for a while. But I think that as a community, not just as a veteran community, but as an entire community, as a nation, we need to work really hard and diligently to combat those stigmas and those stereotypes because they're just not accurate. They're not helpful either.
Thank you very much. You can save a life. To follow up on what Sadie's question was and what your response is, have you been able to quantify the number of lives that you've been able to touch base on and actually potentially save?
That's a great question, and we've actually struggled with this, and it's one of the questions that we've worked with the Centers for Disease Control to try and answer. We get it all the time, which is, how many people have you saved? And it's such a hard number to kind of wrap your mind around, because perhaps I can connect with someone using the app today, and they're in a much better place today, but what happens if a year from now, 2 years from now, they still die by suicide? Did I save that life? Hard to quantify, right? But in short, I can tell you we have users who are using the app every single day. Since we've launched the app in December of 2017, the technology has been used every single day. We've connected over 10,000 people. I don't know the exact number, but I want to say it's actually over 11,000 right now, if I'm not mistaken, Betsy, but over 11,000 people to peer support and to mental health and wellness resources, many of which are free or low cost. And we've facilitated over 50,000 unique text conversations. And text messaging is presently the most frequent way that the app is being used, through text messaging. But it's not the only way. So users can connect to a peer support ambassador through voice, video, or text messaging. So if they want to have a video message, they can. If they want to have a phone call, they can. And oftentimes we'll see a progression. They'll start with a text, they'll progress to voice, and they may even move into kind of a video connection as well.
So the question that I was going to ask, I feel like you like just alluded to, but I already, made my way halfway up. So now I'm here. So what I was going to ask is, like you talked about, like the relationship building and people connecting through the text, the video, and things like that. But you talked about this being preventative, and maybe sometimes like when people are actually going to talk to someone, that still might be too late. So on more of the preventative side, like what are the resources, like articles or other things that are available on that? Curious about that. We'll start there.
Great question.
That was my original question.
Yep. So the theory behind what we're doing is based in evidence, right? There's kind of two key theories that we're operating on. One is the social connectedness theory, and then the conservation of resources theory, right? So what we want to do is we want to improve the social connectedness of our users, and this theory is based in evidence. We also want to improve their access to resources. And so the two major capabilities of our app include the connection capability, which you see here. Users can connect to other users. They can connect to trained peer support ambassadors. Interestingly, the peer support ambassadors can also reach out for support if they need it as well. And then on the resources side, we have two areas in our app where our users can access resources to improve their resilience, but also access free or low-cost mental health care and other resources as well. And that kind of is an example of one of those areas in the app. They have access to like mindfulness training, meditation training, resilience training, suicide prevention training. We have access to free yoga instruction, other fitness instruction, inspirational stories, blogs, podcasts that are designed for veterans and very focused on veterans. The yoga training is actually trauma-informed yoga training as well. It's provided through our partnership with Comeback Yoga. And then we have a whole tab entirely devoted to resources specifically, whether those are financial resources, employment resources, VA resources. I'm definitely missing a lot of stuff. And we're constantly adding new resources into the app and activities for users to access as well.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Of course, you can. I'm here.
So all of this sounds very like virtual and very like connecting with this. Do you see this growing into something that would connect people in groups locally? Like, yes, I want to talk to you on the internet, but I would also like someone to sit down and have coffee with. Is there like some sort of way that you can find people through the app to actually connect with in person?
Right. Great question. So, we would love for that to happen, right? We think that, especially with the isolation occurring because of the outbreak of the coronavirus, we would love to restore those, that meaningful connection in veterans' lives and our users' lives. Now, the way the app actually functions, this is kind of we'll call it the home screen. And you see here a map of the world. And when you launch the app, it kind of centers in, generally speaking, on your location. And then you can move the map around and zoom in, zoom out, and you can actually click on individual users or ambassadors to connect with that person. So you can actually zoom in on your community, see who's local, or you can apply a filter and the app will do that for you. And the way our filters function is you can find the person who's most meaningful for you or most like you. So for example, I'm an infantryman, served in Iraq and Afghanistan and a few other places around the world. And maybe I want to connect with someone in my local community who's also a male veteran of Iraq. I apply those filters, and the app will pull off everyone off the map that does not meet that criteria. And then I will only see those people who do meet that criteria, and then I can reach out to that person for help. And then it's on me if I choose to say, hey, would you be willing to meet up with me for coffee? I mean, that's up to the individual user and supporter. But we certainly, think that that's a great way of restoring those connections.
Okay, I have a couple questions from Facebook. Some of them are like little short answers, and then some of them you've already kind of touched on.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and do a couple of them here. The first one is from Joe Doerr, and she says, who specifically is your supporting app development company, and where are they located?
Our app development firm is located in Nashville, Tennessee, and they're called Twin Sun. And then we do have a chief technology officer who does work on our staff. He's a volunteer. His name is Luca, and he does some of the coding as well.
Okay,
Great
awesome.
question.
And then This one, I think you touched on it a little bit, but I'll ask it just for the sake of if you have anything more to add. Joe Batchelor asked, how does the suicide prevention training align with industry best practices, and do you intend to partner with established suicide prevention nonprofits?
Great question. So, two-part question. To answer the first part of the question, our training consists of 3 levels. The first level of training is provided through our partnership with PsychArmor and the Department of Veterans Affairs. They offer gatekeeper training called Operation SAVE, and this is, again, evidence-based suicide prevention training. And all of our peer support ambassadors must complete, at a minimum, this level of training before we allow them to have any kind of connections. The second level of training provided through our app is provided through our partnership with the PsychArmor Institute, and they use a combination of evidence-based and evidence-informed training, which covers everything: how to spot the signs and symptoms of traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress, how to coach someone into care. For those of you who may not have served in the military but are concerned and want to contribute, it also has kind of a military lingo, how to understand the terminology and vocabulary of veterans in the military community, as well as more than a dozen. I think at this point we have 18 or more courses available through PsychArmor in the app. And then our third level of training is provided through our partnership with Dr. Craig Bryan of the National Center for Veterans Studies. And Dr. Bryan provides this highest level of training called Crisis Response Plan training. And this is really for our most engaged ambassadors who take the most calls. We call them super ambassadors. And these are folks who are constantly taking calls and are more likely to receive someone who's closer to being in crisis. And I do want to say something at this point. If someone is imminently at risk of self-harm, right, they have access to lethal means, they have a plan, and they desire to die by suicide, speaking to a peer is probably not the best thing for them. We encourage our ambassadors to connect them to a professional at that point, right? Their life is imminently at risk. A peer is great as kind of a first line of defense, but we really do encourage our ambassadors to connect them to professional services at that point. We want to be a pre-crisis hotline. We want to engage with veterans and service members before they hit that downward spiral into suicide. We believe that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Also from Joe Dorer on Facebook, she says, do you see this app expanding beyond the veteran demographic, such as working with Helpline and other suicide prevention organizations?
Another phenomenal question. So we do work with the crisis text line right now. We do have a relationship with the Veterans Crisis Line and the Department of Veterans Affairs. But we realized, and we recognized early on, that the military community does not have a monopoly on suicide, self-harm, depression, et cetera. There are many at-risk, vulnerable communities, and we do have a solution that's evidence-based and that is helping to save people's lives. And so what we're currently doing is working to white label or license our technology to make it available to any population that really wants it, right? Unfortunately, we're such a small staff. There's really only a handful of us, and we're so focused on the military and veteran population that we just don't have the bandwidth to help everyone. So what we wanted to do was just basically take the technology, strip away all of the military-specific jargon, resources, activities, filters, and then copy it, make it available for another population, for them to use, and to put culturally appropriate, relevant activities, resources, supporters, training into the app to help their population as well. And we're currently working with a group right now here in South Dakota that's working with the rural Native American youth population, which we all know has a very high rate of suicide. And they're doing exactly that. And we're hoping that in 2021, we can have a proof of concept for our licensing of this technology, that we can take it from the military community and apply it to other at-risk communities and make it available to them. Yep.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation today, and thank you for your service to the country and to the service people that you continue to support, especially the ones that have the most level of need. I'm married to a psychologist, and she works at the mental health center over in Southwest Minnesota, and she often is on crisis calls and things, and And I've learned a lot from the years of being married to her as far as recognizing, well, is this just a false alarm or do they mean business? And I heard you touch on some of those key points. And what compelled me to come up and ask my question is, first of all, what you're doing is just fantastic. And it would seem to me that you're going to have situations, your people that are interacting with veterans that are at risk, they're going to have different levels of risk. And those ones that call up and they're hanging by a thread.
Right.
Are there ways for your app and your business model to connect with the local mental health professionals so that they can get connected to somebody right away? I mean, minutes are lives at that point, as I know you're aware. So just wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Phenomenal question. So this has been something it's been on our mind since before we actually launched our app, right? Which is what happens when someone is imminently at risk of self-harm but reaches out to a peer, and we're in a situation now where someone's on the line with someone who we think is imminently at risk of self-harm. What do we do? It's taken us a while technologically to find a solution to this particular problem, but we think we're there, and in fact, we may even have it launched in 2020 before the end of this year. It's possible. With technology, it's kind of squishy, right? Like it always costs more, takes longer, doesn't work quite as right off the bat, takes a little bit to work out some of the bugs, but we believe we may have found a couple of solutions to this. So to the first part, which is risk identification, there is an evidence-based approach called the Columbia Scale, right? And the Columbia Scale asks a series of questions to identify and assign risk to someone through a series of questions. And what we want to do is, if we identify that someone is imminently at risk of self-harm, they have a plan, they have access to lethal means, and they intend on using it, they probably shouldn't connect to a peer. What we want to do is off-ramp them to the professional and bypass connecting to Chris Mercado, right? Chris Mercado is not the right person for that. The psychologist or the emergency services really are. So we want to build that capability in right off the bat. But let's say someone doesn't quite meet that threshold. We then want to be able to provide that risk level to the peer support ambassador so they have a better sense of who they're speaking to, right? Is this person at very low risk? They just need someone to connect to. They're a little stressed out. Perfect. Are they at a little bit of a higher risk? Because that then gives a little bit more information to the ambassador on who they're speaking to and what kind of support they need to be prepared to provide. In addition to that, we wanted to create what we call a third-party handoff capability. So in the event that someone perhaps maybe doesn't answer the questions truthfully when they're doing the risk assessment, and they still get connected to Chris Mercado, and I say, holy smokes, I think this person is at risk. I'm not the right person to be speaking to, this particular user. I would then have the ability to execute a call handoff directly on the line with them and hand them off to a professional and stay on the line until that connection has been made. Technologically, it's not as easy because we're not using the phone's native communication architecture. So we're using something called Twilio, right? And Twilio is a way of facilitating anonymous calls, right? Using some voice over internet protocols. And because we're using that technology, we have to find new codes and new solutions to it. And we're actually working with them right now to solve that very problem. In fact, Betsy, I think, spent probably 7 hours on the phone over the last 2 days with their engineers trying to solve these problems. But it's really kind of two problems. The first is identifying and assigning risk, and then how do we execute some kind of a call handoff? And we're working on various angles to solve that particular problem. Oh, thank you. That's a great point. Additionally, Betsy pointed this out. So in the top right, very difficult to see on this slide, but in the top right of this image, we also have a parachute with a first aid kit. And that parachute with a first aid kit is kind of a lifeline to our users. If they click that parachute, they have the option to connect at the push of a button without even knowing the number to the Veterans Crisis Line or 911. So they don't even need to know the Veterans Crisis Line number. They press it. It says, would you like to connect? You press yes, and it just passes you right through.
Just want to say thank you for this app. It's pretty amazing. I'm a chiropractor and I work with a lot of brain injuries and everything like that. And I was just curious if there's any sort of intake form, based on the type of injury that they're dealing with. Because I always look at why are they dealing with this in the first place? One big thing, as you said, self-isolation, just due to everything. But I'm curious, with traumatic brain injury, acquired injury, or if there's any sort of intake on the reason why they're maybe dealing with it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. The short answer is yes and no. We wanted to create a platform where we could overcome that stigma and the stereotypes and allow our users to remain anonymous should they choose so. So for example, an active duty service member may still have concerns about their security clearance. So for some active duty service members in particular, they may be concerned that if they seek help, their security clearance could be jeopardized. And if their security clearance is jeopardized, that could be their entire career, right? And we have seen some cases where that has happened. It's not common, and there are ways around it. And I think the military is getting better at it. But the short answer is we wanted to create some measure of anonymity. So we allow our users to remain anonymous should they choose so. The way we did it is we use kind of a social media profile, and our users can provide as much information as they want or as little information as they want. They can use an anonymous handle and provide no background information. Or like in my case, I provide as much information as I can because I want to make sure that as many people who want to find me can find me through those filters. So if there's no information, it's very difficult for someone to find you in particular because there's no information there. You can find other people, but it won't work very well the other way around. But it's entirely up to the user and the peer support ambassador for the amount of information that they're choosing to share.
All right, we're coming up on the 10 o'clock hour. I knew you were going to fill the whole hour. This has just been fantastic. Chris, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You've already answered this question, but we asked this at the end. We are just wondering, as a community, what we can do to help support you. And I think I know the answer on one of the slides, but if you want to kind of reiterate some of those points, that would be great.
Right, exactly. So we tell people there's 3 ways to support Objective Zero. You can be our champion, you can connect us to your network and to veterans who need our services, or you can contribute your time, talent, or treasure. And what I would say is, go to the Google Play Store if you have an Android phone, go to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple, download the app, check it out. You can also find us on the web at www.objectivezero.org.
Thank you. Thank you to your wife, Betsy. You guys, they drove up here last night, you guys. Let's give them a big round of applause for being here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Incredible work. We'll definitely be following up with you. We'd love to hear where you're at in the next year. Maybe we'll have you guys come back. So thank you again to everyone for being here on this special day. I have a few people to thank, which are our sponsors, which are the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, Market Beat, Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship, Pinnacle Productions, and the Museum of Visual Materials. Up next, we've got, let's see, it's down here. The USF Business Plan Development students are coming in next week. It's a mini pitch day, so we'd really appreciate some interaction, whether you're joining us online or in person, where we're going to help these kids punch up their business ideas. That should be a lot of fun. December 2nd, we've got Kyle Bender with Falcon Plastics, and December 9th, Nick Coulterman with Fit My Feet. We're headed into the holiday season here, but we've still got a lot on the plate. So again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for supporting the entrepreneurial community. And make sure to go out and thank a veteran today. And again, for all of the veterans in the room today and those of you tuning in online, thank you for your service. We appreciate it so much. Have a great day.